Hey there, homeschool mom. Welcome back to the podcast. Jenny here today, and I'm super excited to be talking to you about the topic of handwriting in this episode because we have worked with so many kids over the years in classrooms and in tutoring sessions and small groups, and we know what a critical skill this is and what a game changer it can be for kids. We also know that it can be a source of contention, as we have heard from parents over the years who say, I'm trying to help my kid with handwriting and they're fighting me on it, or they say it's boring and my child won't sit still, or it's not even helping them. I don't see it really working very well. And so we want to let you know that it just doesn't have to be that way. There are some tips and strategies that you can use to teach your kindergarten age kid or preschool, first grade, around that age. Um, there are some tips and strategies that are quick and fun and age appropriate and can really help it stick. And so we want to share those with you today. And for us here, that's our ultimate goal is to help you find homeschooling easier and more enjoyable so that you can enjoy this journey with your children and teach them the way they should go and educate them in a successful way without losing your mind, right? So, before we even get into those 5 tips or strategies, one of the problems with most handwriting books is that it's really for older kids. It's not age appropriate for this kindergarten level that's around ages 4 to 7-ish. Many of those curriculum choices are like in a workbook style where your child has to sit down and then sit there and try to hold a pencil. And there's like all these lines. There's a top line, a bottom line, a dotted line. And this poor little child is expected to squeeze their little tiny letters into these spaces. And that's just not really age appropriate for this level of kid. And many times there isn't much explicit instruction either. They're just tracing in these books. And a lot of times when I watch kids trace, many times they're just maybe going around and around and around and around and making the letters every which way and tracing over everything 5 times before they move on to the next letter. And it's just not really a way that they need to learn their letters. And so these types of workbooks are really for older kids who have already learned how to form the letters and are now trying to make their letters more as an appropriate size, like trying to squeeze them into the lines. But for kindergartners who don't really have muscles developed in their hands yet, writing really small in this way isn't age appropriate for them. And so that's what we want to focus on today with kids who are around this age. They just need help learning how to form the letters, and you can worry about the lines later. And we also wanted to tell you that if your child is having a really hard time holding a pencil or any type of writing utensil, you can do all of these activities just by tracing with their dominant hand and using their pointer finger if they're not able to hold a pencil or anything yet. Okay? So we have these 5 tips that we recommend and that we have used over the years to teach this age great handwriting, and it doesn't take a long time at all, just a couple minutes a day. So number 1 is you're just going to focus on lowercase letters. And I know a lot of people teach their little kids to write when they first start writing, like at age 3, 4. They teach them to write their name in all capital letters, which are kind of all sticks. Capital letters are a lot of sticks and you pick up your pencil a lot. But it's best to focus on lowercase letters for a couple reasons. Number 1 is because once they start writing words, they're mostly using lowercase letters. You really only use capitals, for proper nouns and at the beginning of a sentence. So most of the time they're writing with lowercase letters. So it's best to start with that. The other reason is because a lot of times a lowercase letter is just one stroke. Like you don't even have to pick up your pencil. You can just make the whole thing really quick. And so they're much more, they're able to be written more quickly than uppercase letters. So we recommend focusing on lowercase letters first. The second tip is to make it big. And as I talked about the lined paper, I don't use lined paper to teach little kids how to form letters. We use large surfaces. I'm talking like whiteboards or writing in the sand at the beach or writing in the dirt, where they are able to use their whole bodies and large muscle movements. That way, they're using more modalities and more of their bodies, and it's easier for kids to remember these large movements. It's going to stick in their head more than tiny little movements will. And so when I work with kids, like when I have kids in my house that I tutor, or when I'm working with kids in different settings, I have them draw really big in the air. You can call it skywriting, or you can have them write on really big chalkboards. You can have them write on the whiteboards. The kids that come to my house, I was going to say, I let them write on my sliding glass door with whiteboard markers, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can do that. So yeah, it just comes right off. Sometimes you got to use a little 409 or something like that, like glass cleaner, but it just comes right off. So making these big, like almost body size, if you can, helps it be more memorable for them, and it makes it fun. So that's number 2, make it big. Number 3 is to make it memorable. You can use auditory cues and visual cues. So for auditory cues, little sayings like little sing-song ways to make a letter, or phrases that you can say every time you make the letter, help it get stuck in their mind. So for instance, when I teach children to make a lowercase d, I say around like a C, up like a D, around like a C, up like a D. And that way they remember how to make this letter every time, and they won't confuse it with B. For a different letter for B, I might say down, around, down, around. And I always use these same phrases when I'm talking to them to help them remember how to make these certain letters. It also helps them with reversals, because a lot of kids that age mix up B's and D's and P's and Q's. And so when they're making it, they always know that a C goes around like a C, up like a D, and it's made in a different way than the B. I also use visual cues for where they should start their pencil or finger when they're tracing letters in my little mini books that I make them. And that's just another cue to help. Like there's a little green dot where they start, there's an arrow showing them which way to go. Green means go. And so that makes it more memorable as well. It helps them get a picture in their head. So that was number 3. Number 4 is to make the lessons short and sweet, and just do your best to keep them like around 5 minutes, maybe 6 or 7, but you don't have to sit there for 30 minutes drilling handwriting with your child. Remember, they're only 5 or 4 or 6. They've only been on this earth for that many years. And so to expect that from a child is torture for them and for you. So just keep them really short, really sweet. Just practice a little bit, do it frequently, and try to do it every day or twice a day. You know, even when you are, let's say you do school in the morning, you can do it for 5 minutes, and then maybe out in the yard later on, you're like, oh, show me how to do that D on the fence again with chalk. So you're just practicing a little bit here and there during the day and keeping it light. And number 5 goes right along with that, and that is to make it fun. And there's so many tools and little trinkets and things you can use to make handwriting fun. Some things that I have done is using like little matchbox cars. So if I write really big on a whiteboard, then I can have the matchbox car drive over the letters going in the correct direction. And so kids really love the cars. Pointers, like I have little like alien fingers or witch fingers that have this long nail and warts on them. You can buy them on Amazon. Those are really fun too for tracing. Fun little markers, funky pencils. They have some fun spy pens on Amazon where it's like invisible ink, and then you shine the like black light on it to make it show up. Those are pretty fun too. Those are like really special for special occasions. But all of those little tiny things really help just keep it fun and different, where it's not so boring every day. I've also used like little game boards to track their progress. So I have a game board where once the kids learn a couple letters and they move their game piece or put a sticker on it so that they can see how many letters of the alphabet they've practiced and done well on. Another thing that's really fun is, especially if kids are struggling, like sometimes I'll say, "Here, jump on my hand." I'll have them put their hand on my hand, and I'll say, "Here, you're gonna go for a ride on my hand," so that they can feel how a letter is made. It goes around, up, down, right? So their little hand is piggybacking on my hand, and then I'll say, "Okay, now I'm gonna jump on your hand and you're gonna do it." And that way, if they start to make it wrong, I can kind of control their hand a little bit, nudge it a little bit in the right direction. And so then they give my hand a ride. So it's kind of fun. Just little things like that can really help keep it fun. So just to recap, the 5 tips for handwriting for this age. Number 1 is just to focus on lowercase letters. Number 2 is to make it big. Number 3 is to make it memorable with auditory and visual cues. Number 4 is to keep it short and sweet. And number 5 is to make it fun so that they want to keep doing this with you and want to keep learning. And I do want to share that I was not able to find curriculum like this. So I actually made my own, and it's at thehomeschoolwell.com/handwriting. And I ended up making my own. It's a series of pre-recorded lessons for kids that are really active, and they incorporate the things that I just talked about. And they are based on the intervention lessons I used to teach in public school. And the letters are grouped according to how they're made. They're little downloadable mini books that you can download for extra practice and extension activities with little scavenger hunts and that help practice the sounds of the letters. There's even a little downloadable game board where, like I was saying before, your child can put a sticker or put a star on all the letters that they've learned already and keep track of how many they have left, which is super motivating. And the best thing, honestly, about this curriculum is that it's reusable. It's not another book that you have to buy. Like once you have it, you can watch it and rewatch the lessons with your child, or pass it down to your next child. Once it's yours forever. So it's not like a book that you have to throw away once the child uses it. So we just did want to mention that too, because it's a great resource. It's great for moms to learn, like how to teach their children how to make the letters correctly. And it's also great for kids to watch. That was my original intent, was to make it for kids so that they could watch it and follow along and just have fun with it. And with all of our courses and all of our products, you can reach out at any time for tips or guidance for your kids if you have questions about how they're making letters or what they're doing or any of that too. And of course, all of our courses are included in our monthly membership where we have for our community. Our members get access to all of our courses, the live weekly meetups, and access to our community where they can ask questions and get answers at any time. So we just wanted to mention that too, because it's a great resource and it's a little different than most different types of handwriting books that you can buy for sure. And that's at thehomeschool.com. All right. So, well, that is all for today. We hope that this was helpful to you. And please feel free to leave us a 5-star review or reach out to us on our site, thehomeschool.com. You can send us an email or hit contact us and send us a little message. And we would just love to hear from you. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.